Demos! Steam demos! The Steam Next Fest is here, and I've got another preview of samples to share with you. As usual, demos might not be new to this festival specifically, or might be gone after the festival is over, but let's get started with the games already. Pogo 3D is a platformer made by Hedge Wizards, simply about hopping around challenges on a pogo stick. It is so much harder than you think. So the basics are pretty easy, and quite innovative. You're constantly hopping on a pogo stick, and you use your mouse to control the direction you lean. You don't need your keyboard at all. Lean towards a direction to gain momentum, and make your way to the goal. It doesn't take long for things to get tricky. Gaining momentum is fine, but you're not going to be going in a straight line across flat plains for the whole game, like a road trip through Illinois. No, you're going to need to turn, hop over obstacles, avoid other obstacles, bounce off walls, avoid walls, and position yourself just right on surfaces of every angle you can imagine. And learning how to use your pogo stick is the key to succeeding here. Leaning forward will help you get momentum, but it is the straighter pogo stick that climbs the highest, so an idea is to get speed with the smaller jumps from your stooped low position, and then straighten yourself out to launch yourself up to meet your obstacles. It's important to remember the position of your... what is that called? The spring? The piston? It's important to remember the position of your rubber boingy thingy when flying, as it's basically your lifeline. You'll die if you smack into a wall face first, but if you point the stick at the wall, you can bounce off of it, get more air, and open up new possibilities. At least, you might. I usually just avoid death for a few more seconds. I'm not that great at this game. Easy to learn, very hard to master. In a lot of ways it feels like learning to walk again, which is fitting because the game is reminiscent of QWOP, and the many interesting titles that have come out after QWOP first flopped into our laps. Along the path of learning how to move is going to be many deaths, as you fail time and time again to solve your current problem. But if you keep at it, you can work out how to succeed, and everything just works. It'll suddenly just flow, and you'll wonder how you ever struggled to begin with. And then you'll enter the storm drain, and I spent like half an hour just trying to pass this single room. Sometimes I was nearly there, and other times it was like I never stood a chance. These constant deaths are definitely intended. You can see that the game puts an X on the point where you've died. Sadly, these fade away over time. I'm sure it'd be an optimization nightmare, but I would have loved to have seen them stay around forever and see the levels become a scattergraph that showed off mathematically how much of an idiot I am. Well, we do still have the death counter, and yeah, I died a lot. Despite my failures, I felt determined to move forward with the game constantly. I never felt like I wanted to put it down or give up, and before I knew it, I'd spent a cool hour with the game. Pogo 3D is coming out December 2023. Ready for you to hop on in. Oh, it's a rabbit because you're hopping! Robocop Rogue City is a first-person shooter made by Teon, notable for having made the surprisingly good Terminator game before this. I think Robocop the movie is my favourite of the 80s action features, so let's cut right to the chase. Does Robocop the game live up to the action of the movie? Shockingly, yes. The game has taken extreme care to make sure that you definitively feel like Robocop. The slow, methodical pace of your footsteps, the killer precision of your burst-fire pistol, the fact Robocop is being played by Peter Weller.
Drop it, scum.
And not to mention blasting the actual theme for the movie when they can. I feel many licensed games often neglects this feature, but not Robocop. You can pick up weapons off enemies, but often I didn't bother because Robocop's pistol is just too cool. But you can also grab objects and throw them, or grab enemies and throw them. It's all very satisfying, just the way you enter a room and utterly destroy these 80s maniac hoodlums. It's so satisfying. There is even an animation for shooting a guy in the dick. 10 out of 10, no notes. Great shooting and action is more than what I expected, but what I didn't expect at all is that the game also has an explorable hub world, complete with side quests. You scan for clues to help you with cases and confront people with hard evidence that you found. You can even choose how to handle situations, where you can be a hardline cop who follows the letter of the law, or win over the hearts and minds of the people by showing compassion. The game is also aiming for the cheeky satirical vibes of the original film, and whilst I'm not sure its presentation is quite as snappy as Verhoeven's, the fact they're doing this at all shows me they get this. They understand Robocop.
I missed our meeting. I was busy, but he doesn't get that. Doing laundry is important to me. It relaxes me.
If you cooperate, you can get a job at the prison laundry.
You mean I eat and live for free? And I do what I like to do anyway? I feel like I won the lottery, man!
The only negative thing I could say is I seem to get stuttering in new areas, which is kind of annoying anytime I see it, and I hope it can get fixed. Oh wait! There was a new update!
I'll torch you!
Awesome. Robocop Rogue City is out November 2nd. And now for a soothing interlude. Paper Trail is a 2D puzzle adventure by Newfangled Games. The idea is simple, just go to where you need to next, but the world is often broken or full of obstacles. So, you get to do this. It's so simple, but so fun. There's another world on the flip side of each level, so you can fold any stage and change how you interact with it. This mechanic is interesting, but it is tricky. You can't make two folds overlap, nor can you squash yourself or any objects you might need to interact with. So you might have to explore your options carefully through the game. Sometimes you might be trying for ages on an area, looking for the right combination of folds that will let you proceed. Then suddenly, you got it, and wonder how you didn't see it before, which, personally, I think is a sign of a good logic puzzler. And this is before we introduce twists to the formula, like objects that can only be interacted with in a certain way, or oddly shaped levels that might restrict quite how you can engage with them. And of course, there are optional challenges that dare you to work out how to reach hidden stars in some stages, for those who really want to add more wrinkles to their brain. And yeah, that's about it. It's a cute little game with a charming, wonderful presentation, and a lovely new spin on perspective-based puzzlers. I don't think anything more needs to be said. Check it out when Paper Trail unfolds in 2024. Hollow Cocoon is a first-person horror game made by Nayuta Studios. I am probably pronouncing that wrong. The game is novel for being set in Japan in the 1980s. No, like the countryside. No neon lights here. This demo was on the short side, but as a declaration of intent, it's doing a lot right in this opening section. We start by grounding ourselves in the world by getting off the bus in our grandparents' town and taking a slow walk through the empty village. Our protagonist, who is voiced, muses as we soak in the vibes.
宮間家ってことはこの墓は母さんの実家の墓か佐一じいちゃんも
Interestingly, you can find 10 yen coins all over the place, which you can then use in this little mini-game, where you've got to launch coins with spring-loaded levers, avoiding holes and into the goal. I got close a few times, but never managed to actually succeed, no matter how many chances the game gave me. You might think it's odd to focus on this in a horror title, but you get a lot of coins, and I spent a lot of time here. But then we get to our grandparents' actual house.
父さんと母さんに連れられてじいちゃんの弔問に来て以来だな。この家に来たのはその時一度きりだが、あまり変わっていない気がする。あれから10年以上経つのか。
And it was here I started to get a feel for the game's main influence, Resident Evil 7. The exquisitely detailed house, with our protagonist exploring it from a first-person perspective, the interconnected rooms all around us, these inventory puzzles, and getting to see the items interact like this. And there's even a bit where we take a phone call right at the start, which tells us things aren't going to go as we expected. There's nothing wrong with this, and I do like that the game uses its setting to its fullest to get you to drink in the atmosphere. The demo does cut off before any serious spookings actually begin though, which is a bit of a shame. But we can at least get a bit of a grasp for how the game will function. Whilst exploring this house, you'll probably end up doing this with one of the cupboards. It's going to be one of those horror games. But I did also find a health item at one point, which means our character actually has a health meter, and we won't be killed in one hit with a big spooky face screaming at us, which I'd regard as a major plus. I'd recommend playing the demo yourself if you can. It ends before you want it to, but it still manages to be surprisingly effective in making you feel vulnerable. It has a surprising amount of production and polish in its presentation too, and the setting alone piques my interest. Hollow Cocoon breaks out of its shell on December 6th. Ghostrunner 2 is a fast-paced first-person slasher developed by One More Level and published by 505 Games. I played the first Ghostrunner, and I actually quite liked it. It was a slick, smooth experience that was gorgeous to look at, great to control, and more than willing to kill me over and over again to get me acting perfectly. So I've been looking forward to see how the sequel expands things. For those who don't know, you play as a cyborg ninja called Jack, who lives in a cyberpunk dystopia and fights bad people. I'd go more in depth on the story, but we're here for that sweet katana action. Enemies die in one hit, but so do you. So you have to work out how's best to take down all the targets in an area before moving on. One mistake means death, but you can restart in a heartbeat, so it doesn't feel frustrating. So you can slash enemies, reflect their shots back at them, throw shurikens at them, or barrels near them, or use some other skills, and parkour your tin can arse up and around everywhere, letting you get the drop on people. Levels often have multiple paths too, giving you freedom to choose your approach. It's a robust suite of options, but the main thing that sells it is how cool and easy to use it all is. Everything just clicks. And because these tools often have you moving forward constantly, you'll flow breezily through the levels euphorically. I don't think a video alone can showcase this wonderful feeling when playing the game. But this was all true of Ghostrunner 1. What's Ghostrunner 2 bringing to the table?
Do the honors. It's
Bike.
wow, not what I expected.
There are sections where you control a motorbike, and I'm shocked not only how fun it is, but how effortlessly it slots into Ghostrunner's gameplay. You've already been zipping around and platforming through stages on foot, sliding, dashing, and leaping around at breakneck speeds, so when the game basically asks you to keep doing it, except this time on two wheels, it just works. You already know how to do this, and it certainly helps that it controls effortlessly. And man, it feels so fast just driving this thing. This isn't some dumb, frustrating minigame that interrupts the game you want to be playing. This is a true extension of Ghostrunner's core, whilst also being something that feels different. God, I love it!
Zoe,
Yeah?
I won't be back today.
Ghostrunner 2 is out October 26th. Hopefully, it turns out to be a cut above the rest. Mosa Lina is a 2D puzzle platformer developed by Stuffed Wombat, Silkasoft, and Lukey? It describes itself as a hostile interpretation of the immersive sim, where nothing is planned and everything works. I'm inclined to agree. The game is level-based and you have to use certain powers in order to progress. These powers are fired from a gun and you use them to get to your objective and then return to the exit. There's a heavy use of physics in the game world, and the tools you use interact with the world in interesting ways. That alone can make for a nice fun game, but the big twist in the formula is randomness. Aggressive randomness. You don't control what powers you start a level with. There's a good number of them, and you're given 3 randomly at the start of the stage, and are expected to solve the problems posed with whatever you're given. If you're supposing that this game must be brutally and thoroughly playtested and designed to allow for everything to solve every stage, it doesn't. You're going to run into times where it's impossible for you to beat a level with the tools you have. And if you die, you don't even control where you end up next. You'll be transported to a different level, or one you tried before, or sometimes retrying the one you were just on, until you die again. I've always heard that randomness in game design is a sin and should be avoided, and I've certainly felt frustrations with some games where that is certainly the case. But somehow, approaching maximum chaos makes all of this work. Though your powers are random, the one constant between each life is you, the player. You'll discover new ways that tools interact with one another, new potential from utilizing an object you otherwise would have ignored. By dealing with whatever you're given, you'll come up with new solutions constantly about how to actually deal with any given situation. And it's cathartic to solve a problem in a way that you yourself worked on, one that might be unique all to you. The game calls itself a response to current immersive sim design that allows every ability to solve every problem. And thus we have a game where maybe what you have can solve the problem, maybe not. Why not go crazy and try to find out? It also manages to avoid frustrating you when you fail, firstly by taking control of which level you play away from you, meaning you won't be trying the same problem over and over again and becoming numb to it. Secondly, your different tools mean you'll be trying different solutions too. Rather than perfecting one thing that could have worked if you'd just been a little bit better, no. Try again. Use something else. You can retry and re-roll if you want to, but even if it seems hopeless, I recommend using what you have and seeing if you can beat it anyway, as learning new ways to handle yourself in the environment is not only invaluable to help you solve other problems, but a big satisfying rush of discovery. It all strikes a great vibe. I am in control of nothing, yet have the power to control everything. I am a gust of wind flowing across the land, but can carry everything with me, from the smallest leaves to the largest trees. I am amidst chaos, and I am chaos. I am free. Mosa Lina is out October 17th. Catch it and any of the other games featured here on Steam. Which games? I don't know. Why don't you pick randomly? Thanks for watching this video. I received a lot of emails from people asking for me to cover their games for this festival. I guess word's gotten around that I do this? If you sent an email and your game wasn't featured, I apologise. I only have so much time in a day. There's going to be a little something extra next week on this channel, so keep your eyes open for that. Extra special thanks to my patrons, helping me make the videos I want to make. Patrons get access to my feed, and can ask questions and Q&A segments at the end of videos, which we'll get into right now. Do you think you have a candidate for Game of the Year? Most likely Hi-Fi Rush, but there are some other candidates, and there's a few games I want to play more of still. Does Boris watch you play games? No, he doesn't understand why I might sit down for so long and not pay attention to him. He's almost pathologically disinterested in anything that's got a screen, so he'll either insist on some fuss from me or go off and sleep somewhere. What's the best demo of the next fest, and why is it Robocop? I might be leaning towards it being Mosa Lina, but that might be my inner hipster talking. But man, Robocop is so good! I wasn't expecting it to hit quite so hard, and I'm glad that update fixed some performance problems, at least for me. I really hope the whole game continues like that. I'd say it's shocking we haven't received a good Robocop game before this, but I guess that's true of a lot of franchises. Alright, that's all for now. See you next time.
For some to learn how not to lose the track of time is to learn how not to lose their money.